Hey there, guitar fanatics. You know, as guitar players, it's easy to get stuck in a rut of just getting information from other guitar players. And while that's fine, I mean, it just makes sense, right? It can lead to our playing sounding a bit too similar, a bit too guitaristic, if you will. A great way to break out of any ruts we might be in as players is to look outside of the guitar world for inspiration. And that's why today, we're going to learn some guitar from the singer Shania Twain. Well, I don't think she can actually teach us any lead guitar techniques, but there is a lot guitar players can learn from her singing. In particular, the musicality and phrasing that she employs in her singing is something that all guitarists can benefit from. We're going to learn a few things today from one of her most popular songs. While you're here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into this guitar lesson by Shania Twain. You know, I was scrolling through some YouTube videos not long ago and I came across a song by the great Neil Schon of Journey fame. It was an instrumental version of the Shania Twain hit From This Moment On. Neil had done a record that got nominated for a Grammy called Voice. It got me inspired to take a listen to the original recording by Shania and see how well I could mimic her vocal phrasing on the guitar. You know, it's an amazing thing to take a plank of wood and some wire and make it speak and convey meaning to the people that hear you're playing. Now, part of that is the notes you play, and as guitar players, we're always working on ways to play more and more notes. But the other part of that is how you play the notes you play. I think if we're honest with ourselves as guitarists, we don't practice our phrasing enough. And I think that's why players with great phrasing get so much attention from the guitar community. And the exact opposite is true. Hearing a guitar player that has bad phrasing like out-of-tune bends or vibrato speed that has no relation to the song they're playing over, well, that's an immediate turnoff to anybody that's listening. So in this video, we're going to let the melody from this moment on give us the notes we're going to play, and we're going to focus entirely on how we play those notes. Let's talk for a minute about some typical articulations you might hear from a singer and how to practice those on the guitar. The song we're going to be playing today is in G major, so let's take the major third of G major, which is a B note, and let's mess around with it like a singer might do. Let's say that we're approaching the B from a little descending melody starting with E at the 9th fret of the G string and descending down to the B note. We could just play it straight, just that right on the pitch, which is pretty boring. What if we gave that note two different pitches? How could we do that? Well, we could slide into it from below. So we had the pitch below it, which is A, and we slide up into that B, or we could hang on the C right above it and slide from C down to our B. So right away, that sounds a little more vocal, if you will. So how about if we give that B note three different pitches? We're going to call that B our target note. So this time, we're going to start on that A note below it. We're going to slide up to the C and then back down to the B. So that's going to be three pitches. Or, again, we could start on the C note above it, slide down to the A, and then back up to B. What if we played four pitches around our target note? For instance, we could descend down to an A, hammer onto C, pull off back to our A, and then slide up into our B, like this. Or, starting on our C, we could maybe pull off to the B, then down to A, and then slide from the A up into the B. How about five pitches around our target note? We could descend down to the C note, but the first note of the five is going to be G, hammer onto A, slide up to C, pull off to A, and then slide into our B. How about six pitches around our target note? So we're going to descend down to C. Now, starting with that C as our first note, we're going to play C and we're going to pull off to the B and the A. We're going to hammer onto B, give it a little bit of vibrato, and then slide down to A and pull off to G. These are the kind of things that we hear singers do all the time to embellish melodies. Keep in mind that all the things that we played there were to make that one note, the B note, sound more alive and expressive. You know, most guitar players tend to hit most of their notes just right on pitch. But singers, it seems, they almost always move into notes from above or below, or they might sing multiple pitches around that target note. This kind of practicing is so good for your phrasing, and that leads us to our examples from the song From This Moment On. Now, I'll let you look up the original song and listen to it, because I'm not looking for any copyright battles on my channel here. But I'm going to walk you through some high points of the first couple of verses, note by note, and break down everything I hear and try to translate it to the guitar. It's pretty wild because although Shania isn't exactly Whitney Houston vocally, she still puts so many little inflections and nuances into the way that she sings this melody that it's a real challenge to nail them all on the guitar. Now, as I said, the song's in G major. It starts off over G major chord. And the first line of the lyrics has the words, "From this moment." And the notes are B, C, D, and G. No big deal, right? But the way that she sings it, she starts off by sliding into the B note, the first note, which would be correlating with the word from A. Now, I'm choosing to play these notes at the 7th and 9th frets of the D string because of a big downward slide we're going to have to do momentarily. Now, from there, we play a C note at the 10th fret, and those notes correlate with the words "from this." Now, the third word, moment, she breaks into what I guess we could call 3 syllables. The first part of moment, mo, she's going to play the D note at the 12th fret of the D string and slide all the way down to the G note at the 5th fret of the D string. And then for the last half of the word, meant, we play the G note again and we put a little light vibrato on it. Now compare this to how it would sound if I played it really straight. Now I'm going to add the phrasing. Really huge contrast, and believe me, we're just starting to scratch the surface. The lyrics of the second line are "life has begun," and the target notes would be D, C, B, and A. But the way she phrases it, we're going to end up playing 8 syllables, if you will. We're going to first slide into the D note at the 12th fret from the C at the 10th fret of the D string. That's life. Has is a C note, and it's played pretty straight. Begun ends up with 5 pitches being played. On the first half of the word, she's going to play C, B, and A. So we pick the C, pull off to B and A. Now the second half of begun, gun, we're going to hit the A again, and we're going to hold it out long enough to put a little vibrato on it, and then we're going to hammer onto the B note to end the phrase. So here's the first 2 lines with no phrasing. There's not much magic there. It's basically just up and down the G major scale. But with our phrasing added, now it sounds alive and it sounds like we're saying something with our playing. Let's keep going. Now the next line repeats the phrase "from this moment," and just reading and speaking it, there's 4 syllables there. But when we play what she sings, there's actually going to be 8 different pitches. From gets 2 of them, and we're sliding from an A to a B on the D string, 7th and 9th frets. The word "this" gets 3 notes. We're going to play the B note, and then we're going to pull off to A and G. And that brings us to moment. Mo is a G note at the 5th fret of the D string. Mint has two parts. We're going to slide up into the E note from the D at the 7th fret. We're going to give it a little vibrato. And then slide back into the D note. And you notice how I kind of slid downward out of that D note. On the record, she just kind of tails off that note. Put that phrase all together and we've got this. The next line has the words, "You are the one." 4 syllables again, but this one actually gets pretty interesting, and we're going to be working pretty hard on this phrase. If we just play the notes, we'd have the notes D, E, D, and F sharp. But we're going to play 9 different pitches in those 4 spoken syllables. So we're going to start off from sliding into the D note at the 7th fret from the C note at the 5th fret of the G string. Then we're going to slide from the 7th fret to the 9th fret, so that's D to E. And that sort of correlates with the words "you are." We're going to drop back down to the D note for the word "the." Now the last word is "one," and she actually hits 4 different pitches. She's going to go from E to F sharp, and then from D to E. So there's 2 ways you could play that. We could slide into F sharp from E, do a downward slide to our D, and then back up to E. And that sounds pretty good, but I think it sounds even closer to the way she sings it if we bend that E up to F sharp. And then we're going to simultaneously sort of release that bend, drop down to D and bend that up to E. And then there's also a couple of vibrato pulses on that E before she ends the phrase. So here's that entire phrase. Remember, I said we'd be working hard on that one. Okay, the next line has the words, "Right beside you is where I belong." That's 9 syllables, and our target notes would be E, F sharp, G, C, C, G, F sharp, E, D. But as the case has been so far, we're going to play a lot more pitches in this phrase. For the word "right," we're going to do a quick slide from D to E on the G string. Beside is broken into 3 pitches. The first syllable, B, is F sharp. Side is a G note that slides all the way down to C. The words "you" and "is," they both get that same C note. The word "where" gets a really cool articulation. We're going to slide up to the F sharp at the 11th fret from that C at the 5th fret. We're going to immediately bend it up a half step to G. We're going to let off that bend and go back to the F sharp for the word "I." And then we're going to kind of slide out of that because she does this sort of breathy exhale on the record. So I just come out of the note with that downward slide. The B of "belong" gets a slide from D to E. The second syllable, "long," gets 3 notes. We're going to pick the D and pull off to C and B. At the end of the phrase, she does that breathy exhale thing on that B note again. And to get that effect, I give it a couple of vibrato pulses and just sort of slide out of the note. Here's that entire phrase. Now that brings us to the last line of the first verse, and we've got the words "from this moment on." Spoken, that's 5 syllables. But I hear 9 different pitches with the various articulations. "From" gets a downward slide from D to C. "This" is a C note, but she does that breathy downward slide thing again. "Moment" gets 4 different pitches. We're going to move from B to C back to B on "mo." "Mint" we pull off from B to A. On, we're going to play an F sharp at the 4th fret of the D string, then slide up into G. There's a little vibrato on that A note, but strangely enough, there's no vibrato on the G that ends the phrase. Here's the whole phrase. So that's the first verse. And what strikes me is on almost every word of the lyrics, even one-syllable words, they get multiple pitches. She slides up and down into notes. She does that breathy sort of downward slide out of notes. But she really takes what is a very simple melody and she breathes life into it. So that's the big takeaway here. Before we get out of here, let's do a couple of lines from the next verse of From This Moment On, because there's a couple of really great phrases in there. It starts off just like the first verse with From This Moment. The second part of that line are the words, I have been blessed. That's 4 syllables, and the target notes would be D, C, B, and A. And on the word I, she sings just a D note. But then on the word have, she sings 3 different pitches. We're going to play the D note again, but then we're going to pull off to C and B. So we've got I have. The word been gets 4 pitches. We're going to hit the B note at the 9th fret, do a quick slide to C and then back to B, and then pull off to A. And then the word blessed gets 2 pitches. We're going to hit that A note again and slide into B. Here's what that sounds like played straight. And here it is with Shania's phrasing. Huge, huge difference. And the last line we're going to do today is, I live only for your happiness. Okay, so there's 9 pitches there, and the target notes would be B, A, G, E, D, E, D again, and then F sharp. Starting things off, the word I gets 2 pitches. We're going to slide from A to B. Now, the word live gets 4 pitches. We're going to start off back at that A, and we're going to slide to B and back to A, and then pull off to G. Now, the slide gets executed very quickly. The first half of only gets the G note at the 5th fret of the D string. The second part, Lee, is going to get 3 pitches. We're going to slide from D to E and then back down to the D. The word for, we're going to slide from C to D. Your gets only 1 note, and that's another D. Happiness gets broken into 5 different pitches. Ha, we go from D to E. P, we go back to the D note. And then Ness, we're going to play the F sharp and slide down to E. Here's that whole line. So, the lesson here. Singers have a distinct way of moving in and out of notes and embellishing lines that we guitarists can learn a lot from. An artist like Shania Twain, who's not exactly the most gymnastic singer, still poses a great challenge to guitarists because of all the subtle nuances and embellishments she puts on almost every note. It's not the kind of thing that guitarists practice a lot, but we should, and I hope that you do going forward. As always, thank you for watching. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more great guitar stuff every week. Work hard, play hard, have lots of fun, and never stop learning. Until next time, happy guitaring.